What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, this is a continuation of my Cybersecurity Analyst CompTIA CySA Plus exam guide. And for the first video, that's getting into the meat and potatoes of things, because my first video was just the overview of the exam itself, but the actual video that's going into the meat and potatoes of the subject matter is titled Security Analyst 101. And this is basically what you would need to know as a cybersecurity analyst. And this is pretty much gonna cover, I believe, domain 1. So pretty much the basics of what you need to know. Kind of redundant, but without further ado, let's get right into it. What do I need to know as a cybersecurity analyst? The cybersecurity objectives, the cornerstone of cybersecurity. And these three objectives are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I'm going to repeat that again. The three key objectives of cybersecurity are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These three things are your bread and butter. They're the cornerstone of what is cyber. And this is also known as the CIA triad, right? Whenever you think cybersecurity, you always think, is this data or IT system or process, is it confidential? Does it have integrity? And does it have availability? That's 4. Sorry. You know, those 3 things. If it's missing one of those things, you're probably doing something wrong, or there's probably something inherently wrong with that particular process, system, or piece of data, right? And then we're going to go into what do these 3 things mean. So confidentiality is the aspect that prevents or mitigates access of sensitive data from unauthorized persons. Cyber professionals develop and deploy controls such as encryption, access control lists, etc. to stop unauthorized access to information, right? Excuse me. So to kind of like put it in layman's terms, think of your data, right? Let's say this is a real world thing. So like say Messenger, like a lot of these Messenger apps right now, they have like end-to-end encryption, right? What does that mean? So when it says, oh, your messages are end-to-end encrypted, right? That means that no one outside of you and whoever you're contacting can break into your message logs or your phone or whatever and take a look at what you've been messaging. I mean, unless they have the decryption key, because encryption is pretty much in layman's terms, the jumbling up of data. It jumbles up data in this kind of unreadable or human unreadable text or machine unreadable text. Well, I shouldn't say machine unreadable, just human unreadable text, right? So you can't easily look at it and know what it is. You have to have the decryption key to unjumble it to find out what the original message was, right? And by doing that, you're preventing the data or that process or that system from being accessed by someone who's not supposed to have it, right? It's kind of like another simple example. It's kind of like having an item in your hand. The person might know that you have something in your hand, or they may not know that you have something in your hand. Only you know that thing. Or if you tell someone, they know that what you have in your hand. But until you open that thing, they won't know. That's what confidentiality is. You're putting a fist of sorts. You're closing your fist of sorts around data so other people can't look at it, right? So that is confidentiality. I hope that breaks it down, for those of you who are newer here to cybersecurity. But yeah, that's what confidentiality is. And that's one of the triad. And now we're going to go into integrity. Integrity ensures that there is no unauthorized changes or modifications to information or information systems. Technologies such as hashing can help enforce these objectives, or help enforce this objective, sorry. So integrity is just making sure that this particular item A stays this particular item A, right? So, like, say for instance, I'll put it in a better term. So, let's say you have a carton of milk, right? And usually a carton of milk is in the refrigerator, right? But like, say someone forgot, say you go to the store and you get the carton of milk, and instead of taking it into your house and putting it in the fridge, like say you take it into your house and you leave it out unrefrigerated, that milk is going to go bad, right? The integrity of that milk is going to be compromised because, temperature changes, it gets all that bacteria and it goes bad and gets sour, right? Integrity is pretty much the same thing with data. You want to make sure that whatever process or whatever, control or technology you use on that data or IT process leaves that particular data or IT process unchanged, right? You don't want any external force or internal force to change that thing, because if I want to send message A to person B, I want to make sure that they get message A in the original form that it was in, right? So, yeah, that is what integrity is. And we'll go into hashing as we continue on in this guide, in this series of guide videos, right? And that's the second one of the triad. And now we're going to go into availability. So availability, this objective ensures that information and information systems are always ready and capable of meeting the needs of legitimate users when they need the data or system resources. Backups, clustering, etc. can help meet this objective. So this is the final piece of the CIA triad. So availability just simply means that whenever I need, or someone in your IT, or whenever I need, for example, to have a glass of water, right? I have to make sure that my water dispenser is always working, because if it doesn't work, then I can't get my water. I can't get the water that I need. I have to go to the store, or maybe go without water for a while, right? So that's a no-go in an IT organization. Say a bank, right? They can't afford to not have their systems up because people need their money, right? Transactions need to take place. So availability, i.e. having backups of data, having clusters of data, stuff like that, or clustering of all your data, this will help banks or other organizations that use IT systems to ensure, say, I don't know, they get hit with ransomware, right? Someone hacks them and says, hey, we're holding your information hostage and you got to give us 100 Bitcoins to get it back. The availability of that banking system or whatever IT organization is going to be down. So if I have a mirrored backup of all the data, I could be like, okay, bad guys, you can take my data. I have my backup right here. I wouldn't necessarily say, that's not a good thing, take my data, but they're not, too worried, because if worse comes to worse, they have a backup of the data, and, they can call the proper authorities to deal with whatever criminality that's attacking them or whatever. But you know what I mean? You have a backup so that if something goes down, if their data is lost or whatever, they can just reload it back on there. Or in another case, like say, I don't know, you get hit with a DDoS, then, you have technology A that can counteract that DDoS attack, that can counteract that, issue, right? Ooh, sorry. Excuse me. Mouth is kind of dry here. But yeah, that is availability. So that's it with the triad. And then next up, we're going to go into privacy versus security, right? So privacy is focused on ways that an organization can share and use information that it has collected on individuals, i.e., PII or personal identified information. And security is more focused on protecting an organization's own information, i.e., the CIA triad that we just talked about. So that's the difference, right? So we're not just talking about security or focused on security like how we were before in Sec Plus. We're now focused on privacy. And, this is where we're starting to get into the intricacies of what being a cybersecurity analyst is. And then we're going to go into GAP. This is pretty much basic outlines of privacy practices that every organization should aim for, right? And these are pretty much straightforward. Number 1, management. Number 2, notice. 3, choice and consent. 4, collection. 5, use, retention, and disposal. 6, access. 7, disclosure. 8, security. 9, quality. And 10, monitoring and enforcement, right? How to analyze risk. So evaluating risks is sorry for my bad grammar, but evaluating risk is one of the most important processes that can be done for a cybersecurity risk programs. It is important for analysts to understand the underlying technology, the data, and the external factors that can affect IT infrastructure that they're responsible for. So again, just to kind of reiterate it, and I apologize for the grammar mistake. I was doing this in a rush. I'll make sure I get on that next time. But to go on a tangent, this is pretty much saying that risks are pretty much the bread and butter, pretty much the lifeblood of cybersecurity. Because when we have risk, or when we find risks, right, then that way we can break down the risks, break down the other factors that I will get into, and that way we can come up with defenses against those particular risks, right? Because without knowing these particular risks, then how can we prevent or protect ourselves, right, against cyber attacks? Right? So analyzing security risks is pretty much the starting point of the long road when it comes on to being an analyst. This is a very important skill to develop. So first, when analyzing risk, you got to go into what a vulnerability is. Pretty sure you've heard of this, right? Or for those of you who are new, this is what a vulnerability is. It's a weakness in a system, process, or application that can allow an attack to occur, right? So, for example, like say I have a computer right now, or I'll give you a real life example. I have a computer system that I use from time to time that I've had since 2016. Yes, 10, so it's almost 10 years old. It's so old that I can't upgrade to Windows 11. It's still on Windows 10, and Windows 10 is about to be end of life soon. Do you think that my computer is a good thing to work on in 2025, where it can't get updates? It can't update to the newest version of Windows? No, that's a vulnerability, because there's a bunch of, weaknesses that a lot of the bad guys out there could have on my computer system, or that could exploit on my computer system, right? Because it's a vulnerability, it's a weakness that someone can exploit, which is not a good thing. We don't want that. But these are the things that cybersecurity analysts look for, right? Next, when it comes on to analyzing risk, a threat. What is a threat? A threat is a force that can exploit a vulnerability. So these threats are mostly external a lot of the time. So you have your nation states, you have your hacktivists, you have script kiddies, just pretty much external individuals or groups that try to hack in or penetrate into your organization's security, right? Your organization's IT security, right? And those terms that I named off, we'll get into them in a later date, right? But that is pretty much a definition of a threat. And risk. A risk, it goes full circle now. A risk is when a threat comes together with a related vulnerability. The threat and vulnerability have to be in tandem for that risk to exist. And this is like a simple equation of sorts, right? So, for example, trying to remember, there was, I would want to remember the details of this. So like, just to put it in basic terms, say I have this glass right here, right? And it holds fluids. If there's a crack in this glass, that's a vulnerability. The crack would be a vulnerability. A threat would be, say, dropping it 3 feet in the air, right? Because if I drop it and that crack is already in it, it's more likely to break, right? So that is a risk, right? The risk is, or the threat is, it falling out of my hands. The vulnerability is a crack that could be on it, and the risk occurs, or the risk is greater of it breaking if I drop it, right? So that's pretty much what a risk is, right? So to sum up this video, we went over the CIA triad. That's confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and the importance of knowing those. Privacy versus security, the GAP, and the 10 things that go under that. What is a vulnerability? What is the threat? What is a risk? And pretty much, risk is a threat times vulnerability. You have to have the vulnerability and a related threat to make the risk. And that is part 1 of Cybersecurity Analyst 101. And I will roll out the next video probably within the next week, right? What do you guys think? I know I made some grammar errors before with the writing, because I'm possibly going to make these slideshows available for download for people who want to read through. But I'll fix that. Don't worry about that. Any other criticisms, let me know in the comment section below. And with that being said, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.